Hello, I'm MG and welcome to the fifth video of MLOps video series, and congratulations to have made almost half of the journey. So for this video we are going to create our first CI pipeline, which is thought about creating an agent in Azure DevOps that can authenticate to my Azure and Azure machine learning service to train a model, test the model, download the model, and then we can have the package ready to be staging and even in the production, and all having that end-to-end solution automated. But before going further, let's make it step by step and create the initial steps of my CI pipeline. Hello again, this is MG and welcome back to the fifth video of Azure MLOps series. So in the previous video, again just a quick elaboration on what we have done so far. We created the project and we have our repository. This is the place that my developers can do pull requests, put their new development stuff here and the codes here, and then I can use it as a source control to do my DevOps process. At the same time, we came here and created our first build pipeline, which was infrastructure as a code. And then we ran it and the code was inside the repository. We got it from Git. And then it successfully created a resource group with the base name of that project and also some other information, other resources like Azure Machine Learning, Vault, and all. It came by itself with Azure Machine Learning. Awesome. Now we have our Azure Machine Learning. I showed you how we can do git clone even inside Azure Machine Learning Studio. We got whatever we have in my GitHub now in my notebook and also in the VS Code. If you're developing your stuff on-prem in your laptop, but you want to make the execution happening in your Azure Machine Learning, this is also possible, and I showed you how you can do that in VS Code. We did the pull request from here. One thing nice that I mentioned as well, that you can have your favorite IDE like VS Code, but instead of running your code on your laptop, you can run your code in Azure Machine Learning Compute. For doing so, there's a nice shortcut that I can show you. Let me click on Compute. And then this is the compute that I have. It's already running. I click on it. Actually, before clicking on it, I want to show you here that you can have different IDEs being connected. I already discussed them, but VS Code is already here too. So I click on that. It will ask me to open the VS Code. I'm fine. Open, and let's wait a bit. It will launch a new VS Code page, but this time connecting to my Azure Compute. Perfect. As you can see, I'm connected to my Azure. And by the way, please note that you have to first install Azure extension to your VS Code. I have already done that before, so it didn't ask me. And the installing extension of the Azure is pretty simple. It's like other extension that you install in the VS Code. You type Azure and then you put your credentials, the same thing that you come to your Azure portal, and then you're connected and you have the Azure extension. And then when I click on the VS Code in the Azure Machine Learning Studio, now you can see the name of my compute that I created here is already here. It means that whatever that I'm going to create and execute won't run on my machine. It will run in my Azure ML, although I'm using the IDE which I have in my laptop, right? And to actually prove that we are not on-prem, we are on Azure Machine Learning on cloud, I click on Terminal. And you can see the name of my compute is here. Remember I told you we have the Git already installed? Let's try. Yes, the Git is there. So I'm not using my laptop as a compute. I'm just writing my code here. And let's see the users. You can see that MG, we see the same thing here. Let me show you. Remember I was in the notebook. I had the folder with my name already created for me, and we did the git clone. Whatever I had in my GitHub is already here. And also it can be shown here as well because I am connected to my Azure Machine Learning. Now I can write down the code and develop here. So just wanted to show you also how you can execute the code on cloud, but have your IDE on-prem. And again, IDE is not the only choice. It is very well integrated as a Microsoft service, but you can use any IDE. use the Azure Machine Learning Python SDK to be connected to Azure Machine Learning. Awesome. So now we are ready to start DevOps journey. We talked about CI/CD, continuous integration, continuous deployment. Let's start with the first step, continuous integration or CI. So what does that mean? It means that whenever my data scientists, as an example, they come up with a better solution. Let's say, for example, for this insurance data that we're going to predict, I came up with a better algorithm. I tried a new package, a new kind of customized algorithm, and I feel this is going to be a better result compared to what we have already. So when I am in my development process, in my training, for example, Python code, I can actually have my new algorithm, my new code being already created here. And then what I will do a git push, whether I can use, for example, here my terminal and then push this all to this repository that I have because that's a new development. Or if I'm using VS Code, I can use the same thing that we just showed you. So you can do whatever you want here and do the git clone from here as well. And sorry, the git push from here as well. Let's say I have came up with a new methodology. I have pushed that and the code should be appeared here. It won't come to the master branch directly. It will go to the development branch, and then I create a pull request. Someone from my team as a team lead or the project owner will approve, and it will come to master branch. Then what happened? Okay, the code now is here. Let's say now I have the new version of the training code here in my master branch. They approved it and it was successful. What gonna happen after? Is that just all about storing the information here? No, here's the main advantage. As soon as something comes to master, it should trigger something. The DevOps for machine learning lifecycle. I will certainly encourage you to read the information about the README file of this Git. But as you can see, when I am training a model, when I am building a new thing from my VS Code Jupyter notebook, it should automatically not only comes here, but also after coming to master branch, start to train that model. How? Using that training code. I have it here. So this is my DevOps duty, to automatically trigger a pipeline to do the rest of the work here. Training, testing, and registering the models, so on and so forth, right? So we are going to create that pipeline that will be automatically triggered as soon as there's a new development coming to my masters, right? So we certainly need to create a pipeline, a CI, continuous integration pipeline. And then when we train the model using CI pipeline, we need to deploy it. So we call it continuous deployment pipeline. That's going to be a release pipeline. So let's talk about the build pipeline that we're going to create. So I have already created one using YAML. This time I'm going to show you the classical editor that you can use a graphical user interface to create your pipeline. So let me create a new one. And now this time, instead of selecting the YAML file here, I will select use the classical editor. Awesome. So now it is telling me that what is the source control that you're using. I'm using Azure repository, and this is my project. This is the repository, and we have just one branch here. Again, just make it simple. We just have master. Then that's fine. I'm gonna continue. Okay, here there are several templates that I can use to make my process faster, but for now we're gonna create that together. I'm gonna create an empty job and develop that step by step together. Okay, here you can see the name is already added with CI, continuous integration. Well, that's fine, let's keep it as is, but you can certainly change the name. And the agent specification, here is the place. Remember I told you whenever you execute a pipeline in Azure DevOps, well, there's a compute, there's an agent running. That's what I was talking about. So for now, the compute that I'm gonna run, let's say I wanna choose Ubuntu 16.04, and I'm gonna talk about these parameters, but before that, let me show you something really cool, triggers. Here's the part that I was describing. As soon as a data scientist has generated a new code and did a pull request, and now the new version of the training code is there, this pipeline that we are creating should be automatically triggered, because as soon as there's a new solution coming in, I want to grab that training code that just my data scientist created and start to do training, so on and so forth. That's why we need to assign a trigger for this pipeline. How? Enable continuous integration. As soon as there is something in my master, and also we can define the path, which path of that master branch. Let's make it simple. As soon as someone do a pull request and the pull request will be approved to move those development to master branch, it will trigger this build pipeline to do CI, continuous integration. Awesome, we want to have it, so let me save it. Yeah, that's fine. Awesome, let's get back to our pipeline, the tasks, and let's start to create the tasks that I need to create for this pipeline. We can define multiple steps. Remember, all these steps can be done through a YAML file, but we are now using the classical editor, so everything will be kind of more visual. So let me create a new task. And what is this task? The first thing, now we have an Ubuntu agent that's going to start training the model, be connected to my Azure Machine Learning Service, grab the new training code from the repository. So there's an agent, and that agent, the first thing should have Python. So let's search. Oh, I was typing search. Let's search Python. Okay. And then I'm gonna choose use Python version. I click on add, and let's see. So this is the name that is going to be displayed here. I can change it, but for now, let's say the Python environment that I need to be installed in the agent of my DevOps that is running this pipeline is 3.6, and I wanna create a new task. So can you guess what would be the next task? Well, you can see that we just selected the Python version, and now the Python would be installed and I have it in the agent that is running my pipeline. But I need certain Python libraries to start, that I need actually to train the model, and we saw that there are certain packages for each data science journey that we utilize. So if you see my Git again, and I think in the package requirement, there's a text requirement of text. If I click, you will see that these are the list of the packages. For example, I used LightGPM for training the model. This is already there, and this is the reason that I told you we need to also track the environment that we are utilizing to make sure we will have the same kind of environment when we do the staging and production. So let's get back to my DevOps pipeline and installing those. So I need to have a bash command here. So I search bash, and that's here. Click on add. I click on this, and again, just you can simply search and change the name. Now I'm gonna copy the name that I have it already here. I'm installing my Python requirement using this bash command. And where is that bash command? So it's actually a file, and there's a path for that inside my repo, which is also inside the Git here. And again, the repo is the same thing with Git. We just clone that. So I click my repo, the 3 dots there, and where was it? Okay, package requirements. So let me get back my package requirement, and this is the bash command that I'm going to execute. And what else I need here? For executing this bash command, I need to define what is the working directory. So the working directory here would be the same folder that has my bash command there. So I'm gonna choose package requirements, and I think I'm done for this task. So I will go with this next task. So as you know, a very important step in DevOps, and now DevOps for machine learning is the same. We need to have unit tests. Although there's a new change happened to the master branch, and now we are going to trigger a continuous integration pipeline. But after installing the Python requirement and the Python version we define, we need to also execute some unit tests. And the unit tests, again, they're all inside the Git. If you go to training, train test.py, you can see that I am testing some functions using assert. And that's why when we were installing those packages, one of them was PyTest, which is a Python library for executing that unit test. For example, here, these functions are coming from a code called train. So let's get back and see what is train. I'm gonna click on train, and as you can see, I have defined different steps of my data science journey in different functions. For example, I have a separate function just for splitting the data. I have a function for training the model. So the input will be data and some parameters, and then I train the model based on the given data and parameters. And then I have a function for getting the model metrics, for example, accuracy or area on the curve, so on and so forth. So let me get back again to those train_test.py. So I'm calling those functions from train.py and testing them. Let's say, does your data set have these columns? Does your data set is being splitted properly after using that function? Do they have the correct shape or not after splitting, and so on and so forth? I'm logging those metrics from test get model metrics function. So I am testing all these before starting my continuous integration pipeline to be fully executed. So you can guess I need to run this actually train test.py. How can I do it? Well, I can have another bash task again. So just click on plus and I type bash. Here's the bash. I click on add, and let's say I'm gonna call it data test or something like that. I'm just testing, right? And then this time I want to execute that test train.py using an inline code. So remember, for executing a kind of code, you have two options. The first option, we did it in this task, is using a file path. So I had the shell.sh and I execute that file through putting the path. But the other option here is that we're going to use in this task is writing down the code here. So what is the code? I already have it here. I'm just going to copy that to save the time, and I will explain what this code is doing. Okay, I'm using PyTest for running those unit tests and see the results. And where is that code? So inside my training, train test.py, which is again here, training underscore test.py. And then the rest is actually telling me that I want to have this unit test visualize when I trigger the pipeline executed. I will actually show you that why we are creating that as an HTML. So when we execute the pipeline, Azure DevOps has an option which is nicely show the result of the test as a dashboard and visualize. That can be good and give us good insights of what happened after executing that. So I think we are good for this task, and then let's create the next task. So what we're going to do now, we are going to visualize the outcome of this unit test. Let's create a new one. What we're going to search, we're going to search publish test results. Oh, sorry. Publish test result. There you go. So I click on add and let's open it. And the only thing that I need to change is just make it small letters, because that's the place that I'm going to get the unit test outcomes. Okay. And the nice thing here is if I go to advanced, I have the, okay, I think it was in control options. Let me double check. All right, yeah, that's here. So if you come to control options, you can see that run this task only when all previous tasks have succeeded. So what we can do here, we can say that even if any of these tasks fail, I still gonna publish the test result. Even if the unit test failed, show me that failed unit test in the publish test results task. So what I can do here, even if a task has failed, unless the build was cancelled, I'm gonna click on it, and then that's good for now. All right, so before going further and defining the next task for this pipeline, let's save it and execute to see just what's gonna happen. It's going to install the Python version, install the Python requirement, all those packages, pass some unit tests, and see if the new version of the code that our data scientists, they just did the pull request in the repo, will be approved based on this unit test. So let me click on save and queue. We're gonna run it actually. Okay, I think you're good for now. Let's just save and run. It's gonna take a while. Let's watch. Okay, so now you can see that the pipeline is going to be initiated. It was in queued, and then now you can see that It is starting the job, initializing, and you can see all the steps we define now appears here. So Python version 3.6 done. Installing Python packages, awesome. These are all the pip installs that we defined in that bash command, remember, which was in the GitHub here and also in the Azure repo. So let's get back and see what's happening. It's gonna I think make a little bit while to install all of them, but since we just have time, okay, let me get back to the GitHub and show you what is happening. We have the environment set up. No, the package environment, the requirement, yeah, that's here. We had this bash, and these are the packages that we are now installing. I think it's gonna take a while, so let me pause recording now and we'll come back shortly. All right, that's fantastic. All the steps are successfully ran, and let's check some of them just randomly. So remember the first thing, Python requirements. This is downloading the packages and installing them in the agent that's running my pipeline. And then the unit test that we define in this folder. This is actually executing that Python code using the bash command, and it is publishing the test results that we're gonna see together, where those test results are being published based on the tasks we were talking about, and some post-job checkout and finalizing the pipeline. So let's get back to the jobs. Remember I told you that we can actually visualize the result of the unit test. That's the place that you can see. So if I click on test, we can see that perfect. We have 3 unit tests in that test train.py which I just showed you, and none of them failed, and we had 100% success pass percentage. So this is a kind of nice way that we can have the results of that unit test. Awesome. Perfect. Now we check the unit test and we are ready to start to continue rest of our pipeline, which is going to be connected to my Azure machine learning service, train the models there, register, deploy, so on and so forth. So stay tuned. We're gonna continue this pipeline in the next video. So stay tuned and we're gonna see each other in the next video shortly.